Are you thinking about living off-grid in Montana? Well, you're in the right place because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's video. So let's get after it right now. My name is Dinah Filkins. I am a realtor here in Missoula, Montana, and I'm serving Missoula County and Valley County in western Montana. So if you want to buy or sell in the area, I am happy to assist. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and like the video. It really does help me out in creating more videos, so thank you in advance. Okay, let's just jump right in because I have been getting some calls about people that want to live off-grid. Now, before we go into anything, I am in the Patty Canyon neighborhood and we are going to drive over to Reserve Street. We're gonna grab some coffee and then I'm gonna take my car to the shop on like North Reserve, so northern Missoula, so you can follow around and see what it's like around here. As you can see, like the beautiful trees are changing colors. Fall in Missoula is absolutely stunning. Okay, so off-grid living in Montana. So I got a call last week from a gentleman from my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for reaching out. And he was looking at some land that was over 100 acres over in the Phillipsburg area. So if you're like looking at the map of Missoula, it's like a little bit over to the east and then like a little bit up. So a little bit north. So like northeast. Here I would say it's about hour and a half from Missoula. So it was about 100 acres, and the more I looked into it, the more it had going on, and just like some things that I don't think he realized that might pose a challenge. So this land in particular, the elevation was super high. It was 8,000 feet above sea level. And Missoula is, I don't know, about 3,000. So 8,000, super big jump. So with it being at that high of an elevation, that means it's going to snow a lot more. And the way that this land was, because it was so high up, there was absolutely no way in hell that he was going to get a septic or a well. So I had to be dry, like a dry cabin or a dry camper. But here's the kicker. So I called the listing agent to try and find out some more information, and she, bless her heart, she's like, I've never been to the land. And I'm like, okay. So you're selling a piece of land you've never been to. Got it. Okay, great. And she's like, but I do know that the neighbor that has like the land right next to it had to fly in materials. And I'm like, fly in materials? So you're saying like a truck can't even go up there? She's like, no. Like a construction truck or a semi of any kind or like a big truck cannot make it. I'm like, all right. So like something to keep in mind. Can you get well up there? Can you get septic up there? Can you even get construction trucks up there? Okay, so that was a problem. And then I was looking at the parcel map of this land, and although it wasn't landlocked, that means that the other like pieces of land around it are privately owned. That poses a different problem, which we will discuss in just a minute. But this land did butt up to Forest Service land, and in the listing there were a bunch of Forest Service roads where you could go and access the land. And then it said shoddy cell phone service. So plan your route before you go. Okay. Okay, so living off grid, you're gonna have trouble with cell phone service. So like, God forbid you have an emergency, you are SOL. Like, let's just be honest. Anyways, so cell phone service was a no-go. This is Sentinel High School up here on your left-hand side, and then you have the Missoula Fairgrounds up here on your left-hand side as well. I'm about to turn onto Brooks, and then we'll turn onto Reserve in just a couple minutes. Okay, so a bunch of Forest Service lands, and so I have some connections in the Forest Service, and I reached out to them and I was like, what are these roads? How do I look at a map of them? Like, how do I access this land? And of course he goes, well, when was the last time anyone has been to the land? Because we did have some pretty strong storms back in July. We had a really big storm, like wind, and it knocked over a ton of trees. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up here. It was destructive here in Missoula. So the outskirts of Missoula were a train wreck. And he was like, oh, when was the last time anyone's been there? And I'm like, well, the listing agent has never been there. And come to find out, the seller of the land has never been there either. So they could not provide any insight as to what the road conditions were like. Are there any fallen trees? Can you even use the Forest Service roads to access this land? So it was just a nightmare from the beginning, to be perfectly honest with you. So what am I trying to say? Shoot, I should have turned on that road. That's okay. If you are trying to live off grid, just like keep these things in mind. And because we were uncertain of the road condition, because these Forest Service roads are not maintained regularly, we don't know what kind of roads exist, what they're like. And so the listing agent suggested snowmobile access only in the winter. Just think about that. So if you're going to live off grid, I assume that you're going to grow some of your own food. But like, if you need to go to the supermarket or get some supplies, snowmobile access only in the winter. Like what? Or if you need like a heating source, are you just going to maintain a fire? Or can you even get some solar panels up to the land? Are you going to fly it in? Because you can't get a truck up there. So just like some things to think about. Like, it might be a nice idea to live off grid and just like be one with the earth. But there are a lot more things logistically. And then, so this land in particular, based on the pictures, there were some like flat spots where he could put something. So like a yurt or a hunting hut. There were some flat spots, but that's also something else to look at, is to try to get a topo map to see how close the lines are to each other. So like, it's a topo map it's a topography map, I think that's what it's short for. It just shows the elevation, or like where the mountains are. So if the lines are close together, that means it's a steep mountain. And if the lines are further apart, that means it's like a hill or a flat spot. So getting access to that, and you would, you reach out to a real estate agent. We can help you do that. I can help you do that. So reach out to me. And so we ultimately decided that this wasn't going to be a good fit for him. So he wants to live off-grid, but not like that off-grid. And it was funny because when I was talking to the listing agent, she was like, this is off-grid, but like on steroids. I don't know what that means. How do you know that? Because you've never been there. I don't know how you're selling some land and you've never even been to it. The seller has never been to it, so I don't understand that concept, but so be it. So that was that. So some things to consider. Let's make a short list here. I'm gonna move the camera a little bit because we're getting a little rocky. In that downtown area, well, it's not downtown because downtown is up there, but down on Brooks and all the roads around there, a lot of potholes. I thought that when I left Washington, D.C., where I grew up, I thought that I'd be leaving all the potholes behind. Wrong. There are potholes here and it drives me nuts, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay, so next, some things to consider when you're thinking about off-grid. Can you dig a well? How deep is that well? So I have some lovely sellers that we were looking at their well, and it was almost 600 feet deep. That is a deep ass well. And it is so deep that it only produces 1 gallon per minute. Now, that is not enough to take a shower. You would literally be standing there like waiting for the water to come out. Like the water pressure would be so slow that that would just not be good. So there's that. And like, so if your gallons per minute is so incredibly low, then you're going to need a cistern, which is basically a big tank that goes underground, and you can put a pressure system on it where your well is going to keep producing 1 gallon per minute, like even while you're sleeping, and it will pool up in that cistern and just kind of hang out there. So then when you go to take a shower, water comes out faster than 1 gallon per minute. I hope that makes sense. So when you're thinking about off-grid or semi-off-grid or like off-grid on steroids, according to this listing agent, I'm going to use those words because I thought they were fun. They brought me some laughter in the moment. This is Reserve Street right here. So let's turn. Let's grab some coffee. These are all added costs, right? Digging a super deep ass well, putting in a cistern, putting in a tank or a pressure system to push the water from the cistern into your pipes fast enough so that you don't run out of water. A septic. Can you get a septic, or are you going to need like a outhouse? Something to consider. What are you going to use this land for? Are you only going to use it in the summertime? Do you have a second place to live in the wintertime? Are you okay with snowmobile access only? What if you have a medical emergency? Little things to think about. What kind of cell phone service are you going to have? Are you going to want to communicate with family or friends? Maybe if you're living off-grid, maybe you don't have those things. I'm not sure. If you have a medical emergency, are you able to call for help? Are the medical or emergency vehicles or emergency personnel able to get to you in a timely fashion before you freeze yourself to death? I don't know. Just things to consider. And then like construction materials. Are you able to get a manufactured home up there? Are you able to get a yurt up there? Are you able to put a house on there? Maybe, maybe not. In this case of the land that I was referring to, absolutely not. You would not be able to build a house. So adjusting your expectations for what the land actually is. So if you're looking for a place to like go hunt and just be there for a day or two and hike out, cool. And you're okay with like tent living for a couple days or a week or 2 weeks or something, that's great. I feel like that's what this land that I'm referring to would be perfect for. But maybe you are ready for off-grid living on steroids. Who knows? So just things to keep in mind when you're considering off-grid living. It's not as luxurious and free and one with nature as some people think. It's harsh. Montana winters are harsh, and if you don't have like the elements, like if you don't have a nice cozy home, then it might be challenging. Not saying it's impossible. That's not my cup of tea. That might be your cup of tea, and I'm happy to help you buy that cup of tea. But just things to think about, okay? So yeah, I think that's all I got for today. So leave me a comment down below, anything that I missed. Call, text, email if you're looking to buy or sell here in Missoula or Valley County, or even if you're not even looking at Western Montana and you're looking at, I don't know, whatever other state. Not judging you, but I'd be happy to help you too. I have lots of realtor friends all around the country, and I'd be happy to connect you and make sure that you get into the right hands, because not all realtors are created equal. But that's a video for a different day, because I could go off on a whole soap opera about that one too. No, it's not soap opera, it's soapbox. God, I need my coffee. Let's go get some coffee, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.